What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? Blah, blah, blah. Ooh. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the spot. Before we get into today's video, I want to say thank you for clicking on this video, despite the fact that there's a lot of other things to watch that are probably better than me. I appreciate your time. Fallout 2 just came out. Season 2, obviously, just came out. I wanted to kind of jump out before the video gets started here and talk about these sodas I just picked up. Costco, they're about $20 per case. There's 12 bottles in a case. You got yourself some Nuka-Cola Grape, you got some Nuka-Cola Quantum, and then my favorite of all of them, Sunset Sarsaparilla, despite the fact that I'm not a big root beer fan. Hear me out. You know, as a little review for the soda, if you want to stick around towards the end, maybe I'll give you a brief little like, hey, this is kind of what, you know, X, Y, and Z is. But for right now, just kind of wanted to throw those out there. If you have a Costco membership or you've got somebody who has a Costco membership, you want some of these. These are probably a limited thing. I don't think these are going to be coming back for a while. They're Jones Soda, which I think is like a West Coast company, and being someone who grew up on the West Coast, it just makes sense. But yeah, with that being said, thanks again for clicking on the video, and let's go ahead and get into this shit. Alright, so Amazon made a Fallout show, and when I first heard that, my immediate reaction was like, well, shit, here we go. We're going to take an awesome IP and we're going to fuck it up all over again. Look at, I don't even have to go on. Anyone who's, you know, been around for a little bit knows that any video game adaptations have the survival rate of like a Fault Deck experiment run by interns. Just, it's bad. There's no way. It's never been good. There's a very few. I mean, if we're gonna maybe include, like, let's say anime adaptations, there's some one small example I could give, but that's for another day later. But for right now, you know, somehow this shit, it worked. I don't know how. I think it has to be a multitude of different things, like bringing people who are familiar with the lore in, and having everyone, and I mean everyone, even people that you wouldn't think it matters, that works on set, play the games and like know the material. I think like it takes an amalgamation of things to make something this good. But even though, you know, but against all odds, like it didn't just not suck, it was fucking awesome. So it's like a, you know, this is full of spoilers. You know, if you haven't kind of guessed that already, or like seen the show already and decided to click on this for some reason, you know, like, I'll wait, you can watch it. I mean, maybe watch my video first, but yeah, I'll be, you know, like, say what's up to your boy, but also watch some Fallout. It's a little bit of both. You know, what Fallout actually is like, so like it matters a lot, right? Because it's not just a straight adaptation of any of the video games. And yes, there's like a shitload of video games. There's a bunch of Fallout games. Specifically, my hands down favorite, #1 of all time, definitely going to be Fallout New Vegas. I got my hands on New Vegas, and just like Skyrim a couple years later, it went in my console, and dude, my 360, it did not... I didn't take that game out for like 6 months. It was one of the very few experiences. There's a couple of games that have done that for me, where I am so immersed in that shit, I can't pull it out my console. And Fallout New Vegas was one of those games. Fallout 3 too, but mostly New Vegas, you know? I mean, I'll give credit where credit is due. Yeah. But, and what this means is that, like, everything here... it is not just like a straight adaptation of any of the games. It's an original story. The timeline is kind of weird because it is canonical, you know, to like take it from Todd Howard. The shit just works, right? But this is the furthest point we've seen in the timeline, and like, you know, with that being said, I mean, everything that happens here counts, like, directly. Lore and a lot of like deep things that run into the Fallout universe are going to be kind of affected by the show, and it was kind of why I didn't want to glaze it too much for season 1, because they just had like this open world to kind of do anything with, like most Fallout fans do, right? But you know, it isn't 3, it isn't New Vegas, it's not just games and then you mix some actors in there. I mean, like, it kind of is, but like this feels more like starting a campaign on a Fallout game that's all cutscenes. And I'll explain a little bit more what I mean by that as we go on, but, you know, yeah, it's good. You know, it could have been a huge disaster. Like, I think that there were so many places that this could have gone wrong, but I will give everybody some credit. Like I said, if you've got everyone on set and they know what they're talking about, you've got 25 years of lore, you have multiple game studios with like hundreds of people that worked in each of them that can give you a direct insight of to like the inspirations and like the themes that were aimed for with these Fallout games. Retcons aside, fans like will totally notice all of the just everything, and like they took all that and they made it work, because like there's Nuka-Cola labels, there's H&H Tool, there's like there's just everything. If you played any of the Fallout games, any of the little billboards or the posters or the newspapers that you might see floating around, like that stuff is in the show, which I think is what, you know, honestly, it's impressive as hell. It's immersive. They did a pretty good job. You know, the tone, I do think they kind of fucking nailed it. You know, Fallout in general has been a balancing act. You know, you've got like a lot of mixes of really, really deep human interest stories, like nuclear annihilation, corporate greed, just pure cruelty of certain people, but it's like wrapped in this 1950s music and dark horror type themes, and it really understands like what Fallout is, because it is funny, and these things are enjoyable because overall the theme of the show is just kind of dark and horrifying. You know, people die horribly, corporations lie and destroy things. Vault-Tec specifically, they're just like the most evil HOA possible. And yet the show really lets itself be weird and like follows a lot of the more iconic things that Fallout is known for. Occasionally there is just like real absurd comedy, which honestly I am a huge fan of. I love that kind of stuff. And honestly, I think that this is how a Fallout should feel. If Fallout ever becomes like overly serious, I feel like you kind of lose like the goofy soul of it. But if you get too goofy with it, you lose like the weight that a lot of the stories can have. I mean, you know, all I'm saying is that even when it comes down to the small details, like let's say Lucy leaving the vault to chase after her father, I mean, you're kind of threading that needle there to set it up to feel like a game, because in a lot of the games, not all of them, but in a good handful of the games, your kind of main objective, especially the ones that I feel like are more relevant regardless, anyways, your main objective is to chase your dad. Dun dun dun. And so again, it kind of threads that loop of like, yo, it's a Todd Howard Bethesda project. That's what that is. You know, that's always. I don't want to say anything about Todd Howard, but are you okay, buddy? Is it working?
All of this just works. It's not. I'm not kidding.
You know, man. Deep lore and like love letter moments are kind of just abundant, especially the opening scene for season 2. I mean, I'm all over the place, because while I'm extremely pleased with the ghouls scene visually, I'm so on the fence with whether or not that was the right time to use Big Iron. Big Iron is probably, oh my god, my man's Marty Robbins. Okay, I don't know if that was the right time to use Marty Robbins, but what I'm saying is that you were going to regardless. That was one of the like biggest songs in Fallout New Vegas. Probably one of my favorites. Obviously, that shit was a jam. Anytime you were running through the wastelands and that song was playing, dude, you felt unstoppable. Even if, you know, you were getting game over after game over, you just felt unstoppable. So, yeah, no, I mean, I do question whether that was the right time to use Big Iron. I think they might have been able to kind of, you know, strafe away from that one, but it was so good. It was just so good, and it left me smiling a lot for the whole scene, and just how little things kind of, like in Fallout, the Bloody Mess perk, I feel like there was a couple of you know, in the, like, it just, okay, so it left me smiling, right? Like a lot. This show doesn't just like reference Fallout, it really understands it, and you can feel you know, the Bethesda environmental storytelling, and even how some of like New Vegas era like political cynicism and like faction systems kind of works. Like Brotherhood of Steel, you know, they're not necessarily like, they're not directly good guys, right? They're kind of like rigid and dogmatic, kind of, you know, shitbags really. And vaults aren't like shelters, you know, they're kind of, some of them can be, I mean, some of them are, but some of them are like social experiments, and some of them are just absolutely fucked up. Like, they ran out of ideas, and they were like, how do we torture people, basically? So it's like, you know, the wasteland, brutal, unfair, allergic to happy endings. It feels like when like Fallout, when you actually like play the games and you're not running from objective to objective. That was kind of one of my complaints about season 1 as a whole. Is it did feel like the pacing was off, because you would do a lot and then it'd be a lot of nothing. But there's a part of me that recognizes, and that's kind of how, like, you know, if you're really looking for that truly immersive experience like you would with the game, I think that ultimately I'm okay with it, because that is how the game feels. I get a main story quest, and then and as I'm going to that quest, there's a building, or there's a fight in the street, or there's a crackhead that runs up to you and starts asking you certain things. Like, you know, there's all of these things that happen in Fallout, and all these visual cues for you to just kind of be like, ooh, and then you you sidetracked off and you go see these things. And I think it, like, the pacing is a little weird for the show, but it kind of corresponds with my personal experiences with the games. I get sidetracked a lot. I'm very ADHD. Ooh, shiny objects, they grab my attention. Is it perfect? No. Is the show lore breaking? No. It's uncomfortable because it challenges a lot of like the head on canon, but like it also does a really good job of blending in while it does it. So you know, why this works better than I think most game adaptations, it has been said. You know, there's a lot of well thought out, perfectly put together casual moments in this show that when on the surface you look at them, it just looks like a show. But when you are someone who's been here for a long time and you like the Fallout world, you love the Fallout lore, you've read all of the holotapes, and you've gone through and you've played every single one of the games, and you know how, you know, things go. Like, there is a kind of, I don't want to say repetitive, but there is a there's like a pattern to the games, right? Like, I don't want to say it's repetitive, but yeah, in terms of everything, man, I think, you know, my final verdict is that, like, I fucking loved it so far. I didn't want to overglaze it, despite seeing so many really positive things personally, and then obviously the community really seemed to enjoy it. You know, it's just, there's a subtlety with Fallout the series that the show is obviously doing a really good job of understanding. It does respect Fallout. It understands like the cruelty and the satire, the moral gray area that happens with all of these gigantic people, corporations, and basically piles of money with talking lips. You know, it everything plays a factor and a part. And it sees that, and everyone who worked on the show knows that. And like, I do want to give like a little like round of applause here to the people who put this together, because I don't know who exactly to thank, but so far it just seems like everybody in the room, being a fan of the games and the legacy thus far, has gone above and beyond when just translating that to a medium that's so vastly different. And in a world where we get Doom movies with the fucking Rock in them, I just feel like we could use more of what we got here. And maybe we can see this adaptation as that bridge that's finally crossing. You know what I mean? If we can continue this cycle, then we can just keep doing that with so much different games translated into good media. And I think, you know, ultimately the big lesson, what have we learned here, is that if the people making that shit haven't personally had a life-changing experience with it, they shouldn't be making it. And that's a hard pill to swallow. I get that. But it is true. It's proven time and time again that if you don't care about the lore, you don't know the games, you don't have any personal experience or preference or acknowledgement to what other people who have had those things is telling you, you're gonna have a bad time. You're gonna French fry when you're supposed to pizza, and you're gonna have a bad time. I only hope that going forward, companies, producers, everybody, you know what I mean, directors, can see what Fallout's doing and kind of catch the drift. Alright, if you're still here, thank you so much for watching the whole video. I really do appreciate it. If you're still here and somehow, can you just hit those little buttons down there? Yeah. With that being said, as for the sodas, I do highly recommend picking them up. They're pretty good. I think that they do a really good job. The flavors of the root beer and the grape have been scaled down, so they're a little bit more I don't want to say watery, but like they're smoother, and they're not as pungent as like grape soda or root beer really can be. Sometimes you get them and they're just like that's all that flavor. Those are a little scaled down a bit. So if you don't normally like grape soda or you don't normally like root beer, you might actually enjoy these because they're not so in your face. They're still those things, but they're just not in your face. The Nuka-Cola Quantum. If you like blue slushies from 7-Eleven or other gas stations, you're probably going to love that. That's kind of what that flavor is. It's that blue raspberry flavor that you get. It's not quite as toned down as the other two are. So, yeah, Costco, $20. I think that they're definitely worth it. I'm going to keep 3 of these guys in my spot for all my Fallout stuff at the top of the bookshelf. And that'll just, it's one of those cool little collector's things. Big shout out to whoever actually decided to do this collaboration because they kind of did it right. It comes with like a bag that holds a couple bottle caps that they have already flattened for you, and then each bottle has a bottle cap that obviously you're not gonna throw that away. You just toss those right into the little baggy thing, and then there is like a chance for you to find a Blue Star bottle cap. In the game, those are elusively hard to find, and so if I did get one, I'll let everybody know. So far, I checked all my bottles, and I don't think I got one. So, but yeah, keep an eye out for the blue bottle caps. I'm sure that does something. The Blue Star caps. Hopefully, it doesn't get you murdered in the desert, but okay, you never know. Anyways, thanks everybody for watching the video. Grab yourself some soda. Hopefully, season 2 keeps going the way that it is so far because I've been pretty happy with it. And I'll catch you in the next one.